Hey ladies, welcome to another episode of the Revitalized Womanhood Podcast. I am joined by the lovely Dayna Boshard, and I am so excited to get into this conversation that we're about to have because it is so foreign to me. So I'm super curious about it. I'm super curious about the lifestyle that you are living right now. But why don't you start by introducing us to you? Who is Dayna outside of all of these amazing things you're doing?
I guess I could just start with saying that I'm a Utah native. So Utah is in my blood, and I'm a mother. I have 3 children, 2 stepsons and a daughter, and husband. We've been married 28 years this March, and our boys are married. Our daughter is engaged. So there's a lot of exciting things going on there. And then I guess you could say I'm like a bit more on the creative side. I enjoy art, graphic design, building business. I enjoy community. That's probably one of the biggest pieces of who I am is my social side and getting to know people's stories. That's one of the reasons why I love being a barber. So that's what I do for work for the last 10 years. And I really enjoy just kind of that reciprocal conversation of what works in people's lives and the experiences they're having, the things that they have to overcome that we, can share, and challenges. And some is great and some is very difficult. And so those are just some of the aspects that I think I really enjoy in life. And then as well as just one of the biggest things is just spending a lot of time outdoors, a love for nature. It doesn't really matter for a long time what I was doing outside. I just love being in the mountains. I grew up in the Orem Provo area. So Timpanogos and Sundance and all that was in my backyard, and grew up skiing, hiking, doing some camping, all that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit about
You just enjoy the human experience. You are just here to enjoy all of it, it sounds like. And that's how it should be. I'm sorry, everyone. I mean, I'm not sorry. Enjoy it. But Evan's very chatty today. She's very chatty. She's going to chime in. She's just... when you get them sleeping all on the other places where you really want them sleeping, like in the car rides, dropping off the kids and things, and then you're home and you're like, okay, now go back to sleep, and they're like, yeah, and that's not gonna happen. But I met Dayna. She was on my husband's podcast, and now she is also a mentor in my husband's community, M42 Adventures, as the hiking expert. Because as we will get into that part, but first I want to talk about what it was that made you so involved with wanting to be involved with community. What was it? Was it something from your childhood, or was it a moment in your life or an experience that was like, you know what, we need community. This is something we all need.
The barber aspect really helped feed that. And I think as I began building clientele, I realized what value that brought into my life, and maybe was bringing a little value to their lives as well. And that reciprocation started to really, I took notice, and I think there's just a lot of meaningful conversations that were happening, and things that were really touching my life and touching my soul when people would talk about different things. And so that started to grow. And then as I began my second barber shop, which was down here in St. George, Benchmark, I really branded it to emphasize that even more. And then I built my community also around the outdoors. So I decided, Benchmark it's going to be a kind of a passion project of the outdoors, hiking. We have such an abundance of recreation here, and I wanted to market to a clientele that felt the same way I did. So build a community around shared interests. And then secondary, I at that time started involvement with a nonprofit organization that is helping impoverished families in Nepal and getting their children to school who live in the slums. And so I thought, well, my barbershop can give annually, we can give 1%. And so then that added to my community, and that added an aspect in it and some more dimension. And I kept kind of asking myself, like, how much impact can one little barbershop in St. George have on its local community and in the world? And I think that's what kept driving me to kind of cultivate relationships and really push to see what we were capable of as a barbershop in terms of like fundraising and reaching out and then sharing the experiences that were coming back, the photos, the videos of Nepal, of the families and the children that were benefiting, and letting that really seep into my clientele as a community here in St. George, and seeing like, look at what the impact we're making as a collective. And it just feels meaningful, rewarding, important. And how do you not keep doing that when, and so locally, I love my face-to-face interactions. And now as M42 Adventures has brought me on, getting to know more people in that outdoor like adventure realm, it just, to me, is just feeds my soul, really.
So I do you know Elizabeth Fay? Have you ever spoken to her? Have you heard of her?
I don't know.
She started as a stylist, and now she's grown into creating a movement for stylists to actually, she's created this whole teaching method around your clients tell you more than they do their therapists. There is a whole culture in that. When you are sitting in that stylist chair, all of a sudden your soul just wants to be released for some reason. And I think it takes a very special person to become a stylist and barber to embrace what that is, because it's true. I've been with my stylist for, oh my gosh, how old am I? The one I was with for 10 years, and then she moved away, and then I moved over to this one, and I've been with her for 20 years, and it truly is the things that you talk to your stylist with or your barber when you're in that chair. It's more revealing than you tell your best friend even. And it's so weird that there is something so
we're in each other's space.
Yeah. And maybe it's a place where they feel vulnerable because you are taking them down to, when you're washing your hair, where you're putting foils in, you look your worst, and then you're going to come out feeling your best because you're being pampered. This is someone, a stylist or a barber, this is someone who cares enough about you. Yes, I understand they're getting paid to do it, but they care enough about you, and that's why you go back. The ones that don't care about you, you don't go back to, because there's not that connection. So I love that you have embraced this same concept. It's just like Dale Carnegie's books, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's like people over profit. It's what is the true meaning here, you have experienced it, and now you want to share it so that other people can experience it. And that is that the bigger picture here is people, is community, is the human experience. So that's going to have to be the title of this episode, the human experience, because you just exude this love of it. It's not just nature, it's getting to know all the people that you're affecting. So tell me again what the charity is called for the Nepal.
It's
the
Eternal
foundation.
Eternal Hope International.
Eternal Hope International. So how did you even start with that? How did that even come to you?
My neighbors, before I moved to St. George, introduced me to Usha and Randall Wall, who are the founders. Usha is from Nepal. She married a man from Utah, and they were living in Salt Lake. And my friends, my neighbors who introduced me, they have been involved with nonprofit organizations, helping them kind of get the momentum they need as they're in their startup phase. But they only work with charities that align with education, self-empowerment, self-reliance. So creating opportunities for people to better themselves. And they need a leg up, and they need a little opportunity, but then they get to take that and make something of it themselves. And so Eternal Hope International was doing that. They were just in their kind of beginning phases, and I was introduced to their program. And when I heard that it was based in Nepal, that already pulled a lot of interest for me, because even from the earlier years of my life, like when I was a teenager and 19, 20, I was really becoming quite fascinated with that side of the world, and the Himalayas and the climbing stories and Everest. But then again, on a human experience level, what history I had learned about Tibet and how the Chinese came in and kind of put all the Tibetans in a very compromised state. And the Dalai Lama left. He was exiled, and the Tibetans were no longer allowed to recognize him as their leader. And all of those things started to really, I guess it was like a human, I felt like, where is the justice? Where is, like, this culture is being robbed of their beliefs and their ability to live and worship and do the things that they have always known. So there were a multitude of variables there that kept my interest. And then when I heard about Eternal Hope International, even more, I just was like, wow, like, I would love to be involved with a charity that's doing all the things that they're doing, plus their location is incredible. And it just felt like it was calling to me, I guess.
Right.
And so that's how I got involved. And it was at the same time I was building the business plan for my benchmark barbershop. I was getting ready to move here. So that's when I integrated the 1% annually, and it just took off from there.
That's incredible. How did it become, is Eternal Hope International, does that even have anything to do with summiting, or did you take that on as your kind of
they
road?
don't. Yeah, it really just came about because I decided to do a fundraiser in 2022 as I was doing a hiking event that was pretty much for myself and my own endeavors. But I thought, I'm going to be hiking nearly 30,000 feet. I should try to raise $30,000 for Eternal Hope. And it had not been done before. And so that was kind of a new way for them to have new donors and funds come through. And now I'm doing it again, but in a different format. So now for this year, I've designed a year-long fundraiser called Circuits and Summits, where every month I'm doing either a big loop hike as a circuit, or I'm going to be doing a summit. So it's ongoing, and it's just to help keep the momentum going.
We need to get Summit involved in this because it just writes itself. The branding for that writes itself.
Yeah, it does. I know. I am in the process right now of creating some business packages. So in addition to like the ongoing fundraising for this Circuits and Summits campaign, I'm also going to be writing some business packages for businesses that want to partner to have a charity to give to that aligns with what they do as a business. Maybe they're in the outdoor industry, maybe they're in the education realm, maybe they're into women's health because there is a menstrual health aspect to this as well. Yeah. Maybe it's a construction company because they're building all types of structures in Nepal to help with their schools. The structures themselves are struggling, like they're compromised with either just dilapidated materials or mold. It could just be that they don't even have certain facilities like bathrooms. So
yeah. Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. I love that. I'm so excited to see where that goes this year. So what are you going to summit this year? What are the climbs you have on the agenda for this year?
I'm waiting for a permit approval for Mount Whitney, which is the highest in California. It's 14,500. I'll find out in mid-March. So there's that. I'm really hoping. And then Mount Charleston in Nevada, and Boundary Peak, which is the highest in Nevada. Mount Elbert, which is the highest in Colorado. And then here in Utah, just in Beaver, the Tushar Mountain Range, there's Mount Holly and Delano, which I've already done Delano, but I want to add Mount Holly to it, which is just a little less than 12,000, and Delano's a little over 12. So all in all, there will be 6 summits. And then the other one at the end of the year is going to be San Jacinto, which is in California. It has the highest elevation gain out of any trail in America, and it's 10,500 feet in one ascent. So,
holy cow.
So you start in Palm Springs at 500 feet, and the elevation is just under 11,000, the summit. So you start early in the morning and you hike 10,500 feet to the top. So it's going to be in November.
Yeah. How long does that take?
It just varies.
Are you taking camping gear? Do you camp out? Do you just do it and back?
A solid push. Yeah. Oh. So the cool thing about that particular ascent is there's a tram, and 2,000 feet below the summit, they have a tram and a restaurant. So my plan is to get to the top, come back to the restaurant, grab a burger and a milkshake, and then ride the tram down.
Cool.
So, yeah.
That is amazing. So
Yeah.
along this, as you're doing this, are you kind of creating a community to do it with you, like Forrest Gump? Or, you know what I mean?
That
Or are
has
you just
been-
doing it solo?
Doing it solo. However, I want to add 2 events, and this is what's on my mind right now, is I want to add 2 events, early summer and late summer, or early fall, for people to sign up and do it with me. And so we would add 2, 1 circuit and 1 summit. And so I'm working on what that looks like,
Right.
and trying to work with some people in Utah that do events like not 5Ks, like mountain marathons, trail runs around here that kind of know how to get started. So that's
Right.
one thing that feel like a little bit of a hurdle, but I think I have enough of a network that I can reach out to some people and figure that out.
Very cool. Are you thinking like, because I'm so unfamiliar with this. I know some of the peaks you're talking about. I know that enough, but I've never thought to myself, hey, let's summit this ever.
Well,
Ever in my life. So when Woody was talking about on the call doing that across Pine Valley, is that one of the ones you're thinking of adding? Because I think the more people you can get to do it would be better, but also you kind of run the risk of having amateurs doing it with you, and that's kind of scary.
Sure. So it's got to be something that's accessible and very feasible for, I would say, like an intermediate type hiker. Where the thing in Pine Valley, if that were to go like a rim to rim, that would be a multi-day situation. So it's got to be something that we can pull off in one day.
Gotcha.
However, I'm in the future, especially with M42 Adventures, there will be some multi-day adventures, some hikes, like maybe rim to rim in the Grand Canyon. Maybe and like I would love to entertain the Pine Valley thing as well. So I think there's opportunity out there for that, but specifically for the circuits and summits thing, I think it's going to be safer, and also just getting started into this whole industry of like a group event like this. I think it's going to make more sense to do a day event.
Right. Absolutely. I agree with that.
yeah.
What are you thinking as far as with your training? Do you create like, hey, I'm going to do this hike today. Does anyone want to come? Is that kind of what you're working on with Benchmark?
I don't have many that I can train with, and that's just how it's been. I typically, and for a long time, Dave, my husband, would always go with me. His health conditions at the moment aren't really allowing for that. So he supports me in whatever way he can with meeting me at different places to help top off fluids or, check on me. But I guess I just haven't, also it's partly my fault because I haven't put myself out on any of those like hiking groups that are local to say, hey, who wants to do this? Like, I'm looking for people to train with. I haven't put myself out there. I've just gone and like, well, this is what I need to do today. I'm just going to go do it. And so I guess that's on me, but I am. So to answer your question, like I am looking for some other women that I can find similar fitness ability and desire to go do some of these. Cause trust me, I would love nothing more than to have somebody along with me. I just haven't found anybody yet. And it's not because I'm just like racing up the mountain. It's just hard to find women who are in a place in their life that they have the time and the desire and,
the physical ability. That's huge.
Yeah.
That is huge.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole bunch of components, which actually you just brought me beautifully into this next question I want to talk to you about, because it's something that I honestly, I am not even thinking close at all about, but I kind of am now because I had a conversation with this woman that I'm going to be interviewing on here. She sent me her book and her journal, and it's all about mastering the empty nest phase in your life. Because so many women, I mean, for so many years, all we are, if we're not careful about making sure we separate ourselves from it, all we are is a mom and a wife. And so then all of a sudden, I think that's why the empty nest phase hits so many so hard, is because they weren't doing the work with their children and showing examples to their children of how to live an independent life aside from your family.
That is very true.
What did that look like for you?
Oh, as I was raising kids and stuff?
Like how did empty nest? Yeah, actually, let's start there. Let's start with when you were raising kids, because you would have been raising kids in a time when this kind of media and podcasts and everybody talking about all the things and self-care is sacred, and that it wasn't a thing.
It wasn't.
Like with my mom, it was you stay home, you take care of kids, or you're selfish, right?
I know. Yeah, and I do think individually there's got to be, I think most women have a desire to explore what's within them and who they really are, right? And in it, you're so right. Like there is this fine line, and I guess it's time for women to adopt the idea that you're not being selfish. Like self-care is a version of being selfish, because it's like, yeah, I have to take care of myself in order to better take care of my children and my husband and my home, keeping things in order, keeping all the balls in the air. But if I'm not right, if I'm not good, then how am I going to do these other things? And so it can't just be a take. You know, I've got to do the things that feed me too, because I'm no good to the rest of you otherwise. And as I was young in motherhood, I instantly became a stepmom to my two boys that were like 8 and 10 at the time. And then about a year and a half later, we had our daughter. And at the time, I was into rock climbing. I was into hiking, snowboarding, and eventually started getting into a lot of road biking and triathlon. And so I'm just fortunate. And I think there's a lot of women out there who are married to really good men who would do the same for them as my husband did for me. And that is to support individual goals and support her as she is discovering who she is and what she can do. There is such beauty in that. I think you can do both. I think you really can. And I think you should. Yeah. I really do. I believe it with my whole heart, because we are still individuals, and I feel like it is a part of our duty to grow and show our children what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. Because especially you have a daughter and your sons. It's like, who do you want them to marry? Do you want them to marry someone that's just a wallflower that's, afraid to do anything? I don't even know how to compare, but, because that's not her taking care of your son the best that she can. Or same for your daughter, you want her married to someone that's going to support her in her passions and desires and things that she wants to do. So the narrative, I love that I'm part of the narrative of changing that story, because I'm afraid that there are too many women, because I have women in here that are like 20 to 78, everything in between. So just think about that. There's a 78-year-old in here that is still learning these concepts. That we're all learning as well,
which is awesome.
It is awesome. She is awesome.
Especially like, and I have a soft spot in my heart for older generations. I connect well with older people, and I love nothing more than to see, anybody that is maybe 50 and above who feels like, you know what, I've never done this before, but I'm going to try it. And they go for it, or they take a solo trip, they travel, or they do something they've never done before, because it's scary. You step outside that comfort zone or what your societal norms were of your generation, and step outside of that, and you cross this threshold of the new, and it's an adventure. It's like you're opening your eyes for the first time. For some people, it is an awakening, and the more that I think as women can support one another in doing that, but also we need the husbands, the boyfriends, the fathers, we need those guys also on our team. And we need that, because without them, it's very difficult. Like we all have to be on the same page in our journey for growth and exploration. So yeah, I mean, as I was saying earlier, like I was a young mother getting into triathlon, getting into just exploring, just having fun, trying different things. Later, I got heavier into martial arts, and I was, got in the cage a couple times and had a couple fights, and but my family was always a part of that. So yeah,
that's awesome.
They're always a part of it, I mean, and I couldn't and wouldn't want to do it without them.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
what did that look
So,
like for you? Because you were already on this trajectory. You were already on this journey. You've got this supportive husband. Your kids who are already 8 and 10. That's a great
mhm,
age to be able to take kids snowboarding and do all the outdoor kind of
totally.
stuff. That's such a great thing. But again, now you have the baby, so you're strapping her to your chest.
Well, the
And
cool thing is my boys, their mom, biological mom, is a big time skier. My
oh,
husband was a big time skier before he had some injuries. So the boys were always skiing, getting out in like scout campouts and
yeah.
hiking and skateboarding and doing stuff. And then as our daughter was growing up as a toddler, we'd take her with us to the climbing gym. We would go on family hikes. So you're integrating experiences. And then there were times that when I was into road biking and we would come down here for conferences that my husband had, I'd bring my road bike, and during times that he was free, we had our daughter Sienna in the back of the truck and she's riding along, but I'm on my bike and my husband's dropping me off and then meeting me at point B and she's with him and they're, I mean, you just make
Yeah.
it work.
Yeah.
You find ways to make it work.
I don't want to really sit on this for that long because I want to move past it. But there is also that if husbands aren't, this is a message to you men. This is, if you're listening, if you're here, to the husbands, if you are not supporting, I mean, some husbands are actively cutting it off, right? I mean, that's unfortunate. There are those husbands that are
Right.
just actively trying to keep women down, which is unfortunate. And not even in an abusive kind of way. I mean, in a way that they were taught from their fathers that
Right.
I'm the head of the house, you are the one that stays home and you take care of the kids. That's just their family of origin. So
Right.
unfortunately, but
Right.
husbands, if you, or boyfriends, men, if you are not encouraging, it almost is a little bit of pressure to them because you have to encourage, because otherwise I think women just will take it's not an easy out. I'm not saying that, but they will take the excuse of, oh, but I've got the kids. You know what I mean? I find myself doing that a lot. Rick supports me, but I still find myself doing that a lot because it is easier for him to not. Like if I don't say, go change the baby, please, he's not going to. That's just not how men think. He's not going to get up off his butt and do it. Like, why would he if I'm constantly doing that? I've talked about that in my community. And I've actually taken 2 courses. My good friend Trina, she's here in St. George, and she teaches, it's called Taming Jane. And it's all about teaching women the language of men so that we understand. Yeah, it's so that we understand that if my husband's constantly not taking out the garbage, it's not because he's being rude. It's because they don't think about that kind of stuff. It's like women, she has this phrase, what's screaming at you? In your house, when you look around, when you enter a room, what screams at you? And for me, it's like the pillows are not right on the couch. Do you think a man would ever care about that? Or that if my kids jump on my couch, it moves the couch a little bit off the rug, Like, can you imagine? Rick, my furniture could be in,
what?
Yeah, it could be every which direction. And he'd be like, what's the problem? But as women, 100%. We think that they think like us. Or the other good one is, and my 10-year-old does this now and it makes me crazy. She has this example of, okay, ladies, if you're in the kitchen cooking dinner, you're actively cooking dinner, and your husband comes into the kitchen and starts rifling around for snacks, right? He's hungry. And you're going, that's so rude. I'm literally making dinner right now. Give me 10 minutes, Women, we feel, no woman would ever do that to another woman. But men, they are so feral still that it's like food, water, sex, right? It's their needs. And until they get that need met, they don't think about anything else. So, and it's so true. It really is. Yes, of course, there are some that have evolved further out of it. But it's like saying that there's a buck, you see a buck in the forest and he stops for water. You're not going to look at him and be like, well, that's rude. I can't believe that buck stopped for water. Like, it's natural. So anyway.
It's natural. It is.
My point being that men, they are just men doing their own thing and their minds think the way they think. So unless they are actively encouraging their women to do these things, it won't happen unless there is a very strong woman in there that's like, I'm gonna do these things. You know, she has to be that brave enough to do
and
it.
there's also just hopefully, you know, you're in a healthy relationship where those conversations can happen, and it's like, look, this is really important to me, and I need to see for myself what I can do with this. And I don't want, like when I was signing up for that in 2022, with that fundraiser that I was talking about, the hiking thing, that was 29029 Everesting, where you hike the equivalent of Mount Everest, that elevation gain, in 36 hours.
Wow.
So whenever I'm signing up for something big or thinking about it, I tell my husband, look, we've already discussed, like, hey, there's this event. We've already laid the framework and the groundwork for that, right? He knows what it is. This is not the first conversation. Look, okay, we're going to go for it. And I'll just say, I understand that this is going to take a tremendous amount of time away from us, but I also want your involvement. I also want you to be a part of my training. I want you to be involved as much as you can, you know, and I know that means time away, but it's also so important to me that I see this through. So, you know, can you support me in this? And will you be there on those days that I really need you? And that kind of sets the stage for the rest of that training block until the event, so that there's not weird hurt feelings or misunderstandings. Or resentment.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about it. And it's not, I'm springing this on you. I'm not like trying to be aggressive about it and in your face about it. It's a partnership, and it needs to stay that way through that course. And so that's what I'm talking about with, you know, working together and in a relationship that's healthy, and that you can communicate your needs. You can communicate your desire to go outside of your normal role as a mother and as a wife.
That's 28 years. I meant to congratulate you on that, because that is incredible. That's especially now, that is a number that lots of people will never see, won't get to. Hopefully that will start to change with more of these men's communities and women's communities. And what Rick and I love so much about M42 is it's everybody. It's both of them. It's husbands and wives in there together. Being able to do things together or do them separately, or, you know, involving the kids. My kids have gone to the pistol events, and they will be going on the hiking ones, and they will be going on the horseback riding ones, and all the things. But it's so like we're trying to create a new narrative that men don't just go and run and do guys things, and women don't just go and do girls things, which is important. It is important. Sure. But then they come together, and because they've done this work separately, they're stronger, better people, more healthy in their own selves, that together they're just that much better. You know, I call it good, better, best.
Absolutely.
And your life is, I'm never saying it's horrible. If it's horrible, you get out of it. You know, when the hurts you enough, that's when people are usually willing to change. But you can have a good life and still not be doing any of these things that Dayna and I are talking about, still not be feeling fulfilled, not feeling like your needs are being met, not feeling seen. But if you work with your husband and have that hard conversation, that is one step towards better. And then whatever you get to there, that's one step towards best. So were these conversations you and your husband were having when you were dating? Do you think were you evolved enough, growth mindset enough?
We were doing things together, like we were hiking and doing stuff. That was like our first date. We were doing that kind of stuff from the get-go.
Right.
But it was later that I started taking on other challenges and other adventures, and discovering other paths that I wanted to take. And, you know, like, I mean, barber school, for one, that's we spent about 6 months going back and forth on that, deciding if that was going to be my next career path. And after already having a bachelor's degree. And so there's been a lot of changes along the way, but the beauty of that is that Dave has continued to allow this flexibility And I don't mean allow as in like he's some patriarchal, like
No, of course. He's he's wanting to work with you and support you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's cool because there is this ebb and flow. I support him, he supports me. I might take time off of doing what I'm doing in years past to help him fulfill what he wants. We've had projects for him that we've gone all in, and then same for me. And so it is that yin and yang, and I'm so grateful for it. And I think that's one reason why, even though it can be challenging, we've worked through that and gotten to a place where we're like, okay, this is what's next. This is what we're doing. It's not always easy, but it's very manageable.
Yeah.
So
I feel like even I'm still trying to work on together with Rick, because like I said, men, and not that his dad was this way on purpose. It just, again, family of origin. It is crazy the things that stick. And that men being the head of the household doesn't mean he's in front, always in front,
right,
and protecting us and providing for us. That doesn't mean that he is always in front. Just, it means that I am next to you while you're doing that. So you are providing me with this, but I'm also providing you with that. And that even in healthy marriages, like people see, I will say people see mine and Rick's, and it is still there are still things that we struggle with. And that's where I'm coming from with being genuinely vulnerable, saying that I have felt that if he has not said, you should do this, that's probably Revitalized Womanhood wouldn't exist. If he had not said, I think you should do this, I will be a stay-at-home dad while you do this and get it started, I wouldn't have, because it would have been too hard to not have him fully support that. It would have been too easy for me to say, it's too hard. I can't do this with all the kids and everything I have going, right? And so I feel that. I really do feel that to my core. So I think that's beautiful that you two have figured that out. So what is your advice for any woman listening that has this kind of tug or this kind of like tightness in her skin, feeling like something wants to be different?
You listen to that. It's there for a reason. And, you will never regret moving forward with something that is tugging on you, that's nudging you. And that's what I feel like it is it's a nudge. And my friend Lenny actually is the one that uses that word all the time. Like, this is nudging you. And I love that term. And I think it's so important to act on those things. And it's so unsettling when you don't.
Yeah.
Right. And so, it doesn't mean that's going to be an easy conversation to have with your spouse. I've opened some conversations with Dave that I'm like, you're not going to love this.
Guess what I've got for us?
To tell you, and you're really not going to love this. Or if I say, I have an idea, Dave's like, oh, geez.
That's Rick. I have an idea. I'm like, oh, great. We're starting another business. Okay.
Yeah. But women, really, please, like you have those things nudging you for a reason. And until you act on it, that is going to be so unsettling. And that builds resentment. Like you were saying earlier, like that in itself will build resentment, because then you honestly start to go into like a victimhood mentality because, well, I'm not doing this and I'm supposed to do it, or I want to do it and I'm not able to. So then it's like, are you blaming somebody?
Yeah, you would. You would start blaming your kids for that. You would start blaming your husband, whether you're doing it vocally or unintentionally. You would. That resentment is like, I can't do this thing that is on my heart to do because of you. And it's like, no, that's not right.
And that's not okay.
No.
So step back and be like, let's just have the adult conversation we need to have. It might not be what your spouse wants to hear, but start the conversation. Don't just have many conversations about it. If it's months of talking about it so that we can get to a place where we're both comfortable, and then the time is right for this to happen. Like whatever preparations need to be made so that this thing can happen is, it doesn't have to be like, hey, I want to run a marathon and, I'm going to start training tomorrow. well, let's see what works. Let's see what works with our schedule, what's already on the board, and let's go from there. And
well, and Rick says too, he says, you are taking away like you're not giving me credit for being open-minded enough to wanting you to do these things. I think I did. I had a member last year that we were having our retreat, and she says, "Oh, I can't come." And I went kind of behind her back, which it was one of those moments in my life that I thought, this could turn out really bad. This is doing something that could be a bad thing, but the reward was worth the risk. You know what I mean? Text her husband.
Yeah.
And said, I really, really want her here. However, I can make that happen. Can you work with me? And I knew that he was that kind of a person, that he would support her if they could do it, And so I was just saying curiously, like, is there a way I can make this something that can be easier for your family or whatever? And she called me crying, and I was like, what's coming? And she said, I just assumed that I couldn't do this. I never even asked him. I never even had the conversation, because I just assumed we had this going on. We had this going on. We had this, and I didn't want to be a burden. Do you know what I mean? And she was crying because he said, I want this for you. That's want awesome. You to do these things. This will make you better, like more fulfilled, right? This will make you happier. And then I get a better version of you. You will be happier and more fulfilled. And so I will get that version of you. And so it's like you take the credit away from them. You're already saying he won't be open to this. You're creating, it's Dale Carnegie again, stop worrying and start living. You're creating all of these what ifs, these hypotheticals, which your imagination can come up with a bazillion. If you've got a good imagination, I mean, they could go on and on, but you're already stopping yourself before it even begins, because you've created this imaginary belief in your brain of how that conversation's going to go.
I could not agree more. And I think there is that initial worry for a lot of people, a lot of women. And I felt that worry before. I felt like, oh, he is going to be like, what? Are you crazy? But again, to me, I can't live with that unsettled feeling, at least for very long. I can't, so you have to find the strength within you to say, I'm doing it. I'm going to open the conversation and we're going to talk.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I love these kind of communities that help give permission, and not only permission, but the tools to do it better. Like if I go to Rick and say, if I'm so excited about something, there's a lot of emotion behind it, right? I have an example right now of something that I was really, really, really excited about, but it took this other party to help me with it. And this other party said no, they wouldn't. And in my head, I was like, why wouldn't they? They should. This helps everybody. This makes women better, makes the husbands better. This helps everybody. Why wouldn't you support this? And so I was upset. So when I went to Rick about it, to talk to him about it, I'm coming at him again, not in the language of men. So if I come to him emotionally and just like meltdown mode, all he wants to do is put those fires out. He cannot even think rationally. And so instantly he's just like, oh, what do? I don't even know how to fix this. Just stop. So it ends badly for both of us, because he's not supporting me the way that I want him to. But communities like ours, like the men's communities that are out there, and the Revitalized Sisterhood and M42, it's teaching these kinds of tools. That's like, well, you know what? You need to identify what your needs are first, because if you can't even identify them, how are you supposed to explain them? And then you go to someone calmly and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. And if you get a no, if you get the answer you don't want, you don't throw a tantrum like your 4-year-old would. You go back to the drawing board and say, how can I make this better? How can I make this work for both of us?
Yeah. And that's life. I mean, we're going to be faced with all kinds of no's and rejections and denials along the way. And okay, well, be solution oriented. Let's get creative. Let's figure out, maybe that first approach, like you said, isn't the way. Maybe that's not supposed to be the way. Let's steer around that. Let's find another way. And it's not that you're being, that you can't take no for an answer. It's that, there's like my call the other day was about persistence.
Yeah.
So there's going to be inevitable challenges and things we've got to overcome, maybe even failures or things that feel like failures. That doesn't mean it's the end of the road. That just means maybe that particular path wasn't even the right path for you, and it's going to open a door that you didn't even think about before. And let's give it a little breathing room and time, and let's see what opens up. There's a lot of people, I feel like sometimes we put all the responsibility on ourselves of figuring out how we're going to make things happen. And like, it sounds like you were reaching out to another party to help facilitate something. And honestly, that's usually the way is this community is with my fundraisers, with my clientele, with my family. It is usually conversations that I'm having and resources in that network that drives answers and the how in the whole equation. Because I have my why. I know why I want to do this. I know what I want to do. And then I don't always know how it's going to happen. But I don't worry so much about how. I let other people sometimes figure that out. I rely on that community to help drive ideas. I'm telling you, I could not have done the fundraiser that I did without letting other people figure out the how.
Yeah.
I had never raised money before like that.
That's what the beauty of community is. That's the whole,
that's exactly
and networking, the beauty of networking, the beauty of community. That's what it is. It's falling short somewhere and having someone else pick up the slack in that area.
Absolutely.
And that's, you know what, the universe, ladies, I'm going to tell you right now, the universe is working. It's God. God is working his magic right now, because the day before your Zoom call on persistence, I was actually listening to a podcast of a guest I'm going to have on here, and hers was all about creating emotional resilience, which is the same thing as persistence. It's figuring out when the shit hits the fan, how quickly you can get back up and say, okay, what can I learn from that? That was not good, but it did teach me something. What was it? And how can I now incorporate that into being better and stronger? Right. And so I went from that podcast to your Zoom call on that, and me getting this information that I do not like at all when I'm reaching out to these things. Yeah. And now in my brain, I'm getting these ideas of, you know what, you've got to get out of your comfort zone and you've got to go, how else can I do this? Well, I need to speak in front of a large group of people. I need to get on a TV program. I need to be on a magazine or an article. I need to, I'm like, how can I? And so it's making me, these no's that are coming aren't doors shutting. And now I'm like, dang it. Well, too bad for that. I guess now nobody will hear my message. No. Now I'm going, okay, well, that sucked. Had my little pity party for a second. But then my brain starts going, okay, well, if they're going to block me, how can I go around that and go even bigger to spread my message,
There you go.
And that is persistence.
It is. And you'll start to discover, like, you'll have conversations at random, and other people might be putting out the word for you as well that are behind you. And pretty soon it cultivates a resource that you maybe didn't think of, or somebody wants to help. Yeah. So,
I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you, what's your advice for these women that are feeling this nudge and who are excited to take action, but they are just not in a season where that's going to happen?
I understand that. It's sometimes I understand, like, it's hard to be patient, and you're in a season, and understand that it's a season, and seasons are there. That season will end and a new one will come in. And, I wasn't doing all these things that I'm doing now. I mean, I'm an empty nester now. I have a different dynamic than those with young ones at home. So there's more time available and bandwidth available. So you have to understand, like, it's okay. Take what you have right now, be present with it, enjoy it, and do what you can do. But it's again, like, accepting that you are in this specific season, which you probably chose, and you know that there's it's gonna it's hard to put into words sometimes, but it's like riding that wave and enjoying where it takes you until you're ready to catch the next one. And it's not, I know it's not easy sometimes in your mind, because we are such especially now, just this culture of immediate gratification, and we want what we want. And I feel ready for this, but yeah, like the time isn't quite there. And I am such a believer in timing. And when you try to force things that aren't in the right time, it's not going to play out the way you want it to, the way that maybe you envision in your mind. Timing is everything.
Yeah.
And that's probably not the answer some people want to hear, but it is. Timing is everything. I couldn't have done what I'm doing now when my daughter and my boys were young. Like you're focused on so many other things. And, I just think I look at how quickly that time of my life went of having kids at home. I know sometimes it feels like an eternity, but it's not. It's so fast, and it's a blip. And I tell people often that empty nesting is overrated, because I love having my kids around,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you're so proud to see them go and live their lives. But yeah, timing.
I love that. That was beautiful. I don't even want to talk anymore, because that was so perfect, that timing, because you're not going to be the person you need to be yet, maybe. Right? Like
Right.
if these
Yeah.
things are needing to happen, maybe I like to think about it. And while you were explaining that so beautifully, it made me, I really want to get you in touch with my dear friend Teresa. You guys would just love each other. She said, we went on a walk when we first met. We went on a walk together, and we were talking about that Rick used to say, before I was in all this, he used to say, read this book. He was in it. He was so excited about it. And, and in his growth journey and all these things. And I'm like, nah, where's Twilight? I'm going to read Twilight, and I'm going to read, all the whatever books I have books. I have boxes and boxes of books, and now Audibles and all the things. And I was cleaning 8 vacation rentals, in and outs with 2 little boys. So I had my earbud in or my headphones on, just listening to these books. And I'm just like, no, I don't want to listen to your boring old man books. No, thank you. I don't need to know how to be rich quick. I don't need to know how to be a good manager. Like, no, thanks. And so I said this to Teresa. I said, man, why didn't I start this sooner? Like, all of these books are just blowing my mind, Dale Carnegie, Dave Ramsey, Tim Ferriss, all of these books that are just blowing my mind. And she says, you wouldn't have been ready for them yet. You were not in a place in your life that you were ready to do these things. I had 2 young boys and we were traveling full time, and I'm back into it now again, and we're going to be traveling full time. So there are so many things for me as well, ladies. I have these pulls and this itch that's like, oh, I want to do so many things, and there are going to be so many things on the horizon. But right now, I get to snuggle this teeny little baby that's asleep in my lap.
And how special is that?
Yeah. And have incredible conversations. Luckily, I can do that while I'm having incredible conversations with people that I'm just super curious about. What a blessing. That is so cool.
No, it's amazing. Very cool. Yeah. No, I mean, I love that. And I think it's wonderful that you're able to host and lead a women's community in this phase of life that you're in right now, and with kids and husband and all the things. Like, that says a lot about you as an individual and your strength and your determination, but also your relationship with Rick and your children, that there's a group effort going on there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. I agree. That's the definition of revitalized womanhood to me, is defining for yourself, not having it defined for you, what your womanhood looks like. And to me, that looks like podcasting while I'm nursing a baby, and traveling with my kids. And sometimes the women's community won't happen because I'm busy with my family or whatever, right? But I'm defining it. It's not someone else's definition.
Amen to that.
Yeah. And I think you are a beautiful example of that. So I'm really grateful that you spent this time with me and shared your story. I think that's so great. And I cannot wait to keep keep this up in M42 Adventures. She is the mentor for it is called the hiking channel, right?
It is. Yeah. And we'll cover trail running and mountaineering as well. There is like a mountain climbing channel, but I think with nobody mentoring that yet, I'll probably start implementing that as the bigger climbs begin. And because there is a 3-year plan in place that I have for myself right now, which does include getting into some high mountains in the Himalayas. And so,
wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait to watch. I can't see, like that I said, I can't wait to watch.
well,
I can't wait to watch, but maybe I'll be watching from the bottom. And so when you come back to base camp, I'll be there to give you a big hug.
Yes.
That's
would
okay. I'm all
mean
right with
so
that.
much. Yeah, I know. I've thought, man, wouldn't it be cool to have family at base camp? But yeah, that's another.
That's
see what
Machu
happens.
Picchu. Rick's like, do you want to hike this? And I'm like, I will take a Sherpa. Thank you. I will hike it, but I will have a Sherpa for my children. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So
All
we'll cover all that stuff. And I'm really excited to be able to reach out with M42 Adventures. And it's just such a great opportunity for all of us to grow together and learn from one another. And same with your community and these women who probably really look forward to getting the insights and on their growth journey.
Yeah, it's amazing. It
you're
really is.
providing.
It is so encouraging and amazing to see that they have the courage and the discipline to do this for themselves. It's not me doing anything. I'm not doing anything.
For sure.
I might be giving them permission because I'm that loud and obnoxious voice in their head constantly saying, you can do it. You can do it. But other than that, it is them doing the work, and it's incredible. It is really incredible to watch. So I am grateful.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dayna. I appreciate your time, and thank you for being here with me. And we're here to support you for all of it. So can't wait to see the rest of it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gina.